During an era when many people comment on the high prices of EMTBs, it's very timely and refreshing that a thoroughbred of the two-wheel world has introduced a great all-round bike that is high on performance and low on cost. It's 30 years since Yamaha launched their first e-bike, the world's first pedal assist bike. It was a city bike, it had a basket, it was groundbreaking. A solution to the bicycle's weakness to going uphill. PAS. Yamaha PAS was a world's first product, and today Yamaha breaking new ground, having evolved into EMTB too. This is no surprise, given the brand's massive off-road pedigree. So what do we have then to celebrate the occasion? Well, factory silver, aluminium front to rear. I like this. Welcome to springtime in Liguria for a blowout on the Yamaha Moro. So what do we got? Well, with over half a century of knowledge behind them, you'd think that Yamaha are pretty proficient at getting the feeling right of a two-wheeler off-road, right? I mean, they were winning motocross titles before mountain biking was even invented. So they know a thing or two about frames and motors. And hold on a minute, is this actually a world first, a frame and motor battery from the same company? This then is the 30th anniversary edition of the Moro. And if an aluminium frame is great for a YZ450F motocross bike at over 4 times the weight, then surely this material is great for an EMTB too. The bike has a unique twin top tube and down tube design, and that battery is located more centrally than on many other EMTBs. And the price is £4,350, which kind of makes sense because that's half the price of, say, a YZF, which the likes of Eli Tomac and his fellow pro motocrossers throw around. Let's turn our attention now then to some of the fine detail of this Moro bike. Starting off with the drive unit. There it is. It's not hiding from anybody. It's proud to be Yamaha. It's actually interesting that when you get close to this bike, you can see all some fine details which I've not seen before, like the cable routing here on the chainstay. The PW series has now been around for over a decade, launched in 2013. Now this drive unit is lighter, more compact, and with a higher torque than the previous version. You can see the shape and form of this over the previous X2 is far smaller. And also, being a Yamaha, who have been making YZ motors for 50 years, they probably know a thing or two about durability. In fact, I have never broken a Yamaha drive unit, even though I've tried incredibly hard. In fact, I've ridden Yamaha motors totally submerged, and they still work. WX3 then, instant assistance from this drive unit. Pedaling above 25 kph is very clean because of a carefully designed freewheel. Sound of the motor is quiet, but one thing which I want to touch upon is that Q factor. The width of this drive unit is pretty much, it's narrower than the top of the seat stay here. So when you're leaning into corners, people talk about crank length, the importance of crank length, but actually the width of the motor is important too. So I've got a bit more space when I'm leaned over in some of these corners. And also, I think, as we'll find out later, is the ability to climb super tech terrain with a bit of space, especially in these rutted conditions up on the mountain. Now, inasmuch as it's nice to talk about motor adjustability and sound and Q factor and the torque figures, the only way to truly test an e-mountain bike motor and the system, obviously, which comprises the frame and the geometry and all those parts, is actually to put a 95 kilo rider at a proper world level e-bike climb. This is actually the first test climb in the Enduro World Series from a few years ago. So engage lowest gear. This could actually be the first of multiple takes. So Just bear with us. Okay guys, I'm gonna go off script down one of the world's toughest competition climbs. That's if I can make it. Oh my God, bent my leg in half. Oh, sorry Yamaha, I might have scratched your bike. Oh. Yes. Whoa, this is physical. Plenty of power for a 95 kilo rider. Geometry's not holding me back. Smiley face. The Pedro X3's quad sensor detects torque, speed, rotation and angle, which means the engagement is absolutely instant. Doesn't rely on a crank being in a certain position. Does that matter? Yes, it does. Now, whilst a steep seat tube angle is important because I'm sat down here, when things get really steep, you're actually not on the seat anyway. Whoa, that was tough. Now, the Pedro X3 has 5 support modes from eco up to extra high power, plus of course, that automatic mode which adjusts the assistance accordingly. So for example, when you come up a super steep climb, which I've done there, it gives you more assistance, and now I'm on the flat and it backs off the power. So it's enabling you to get more range out of the battery. In terms of battery, we've got a 500 watt hour on this bike, which is located centrally, as I mentioned earlier, which is great for the overall balance of the bike. Now, Yamaha have got their own Interface X app, which has got all the communications and navigation and a ton more features, such as the adjustability of that motor. And in terms of the front of house, we've got a very minimalist remote and display on this bike, which gives you all the metrics you need whilst out on your ride. Componentry, RockShox Lyric Select fork up front, 160mm travel. Yamaha's own tune on the damper. MT5 brakes from Magura, 200mm rotors. Praxis 165mm cranks and Shimano XT 12-speed drivetrain. Strong, reliable, boom. And one final but very important thought. What is the Moro all about? Well, I think that is reflected in both the componentry and the geometry of this bike. The kind of numbers that make it a really good all-round trail enduro style bike. In terms of the geometry, there's a few things I want to turn your attention to. I mean, some of the numbers are what you'd expect of a bike of this nature. Such things as the 65-degree head angle and the 333mm bottom bracket, which makes it such a great bike for cornering. There's a couple of things. The seat tube angle is actually a bit slacker that you might find on a lot of trail enduro e-bikes these days, but I think that is compensated for in the slightly longer chainstay on this bike, which actually makes it really, really good at climbing those tech climbs. And finally, that wheelbase of 1263 makes it super stable in those very difficult downhill situations, which are abundant here in Finale. Wow, what a bike. But then again, I think that's what you'd kind of expect from a brand with such massive experience as Yamaha. I think they've nailed it. I mean, 4,350, it is a lot of bike for that money. They've totally dialed that frame in. The feeling you get from that full aluminium chassis is absolutely bang on. The suspension characteristics supports you. It's supple at the same time. And as far as that motor goes, wow, that really is pretty punchy. It even took me up some of the toughest climbs in the power stage world. Folks, thanks for joining us from here in Finale. And any questions, please do let us know in the comments down below. Too cold to go in the sea.